working from home?
No, I've been in the office. Well, we've been working from home since March 18th or 19th, whenever this all happened. I go in about once a week just to meet with our maintenance crew still working. So to meet with them, or we've been out to No Name Park a couple times, but for the most part, it's here. What about you?
Working from home. I went into the office last week. We shut our facility down about a week or 2 weeks before the stay-at-home orders. We had an individual that was tested positive very early on. She was on a flight
Wow.
back from California, and several passengers from that cruise ship that was docked out in San Francisco. Several passengers from that cruise ship were on her flight. Apparently they lied about being on the cruise ship to get on the flight so they could get home.
Oh, wow.
And everyone on that flight ended up positive for COVID.
Holy cow.
So we closed our facility a week or two before any of the stay-at-home orders, and we've been closed since. For the
Is she
most
doing
part.
okay now?
She is. Took her about 4 weeks to recover. Never ended up in the hospital, but she was pretty sick.
All right, how's everybody doing?
Hi, Scott.
Good.
Yeah.
Hi, Scott.
Scott?
So Darren, are you at home to
I'm
give
at home.
give your update? Is
I'm at
the
home.
city hall
I am.
closed, or are you guys going up there?
City Hall's closed. I've been up there a handful of times just for odd and end stuff, but I've been working from home.
Gotcha.
Wife-
I've
Wife
seen more
just took
beards
my
on
daughter to
people
soccer
than-
practice. What's that?
I think quarantine and growing a beard has gone hand in hand for most people.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess we gotta go through the official process, huh? Looks like everybody's here though, so that'd be good. So roll wise, I think if this is
The only one that
everybody,
we're
if I can
missing-
see that. So
Yeah, Jason Law will not be here tonight.
oh, okay, yeah, okay. And then so that's good. I doubt we have public comment. So off the top of my head, I think director's report is next.
Well, let me
Okay,
tell you this, the
um,
dogs will have an opinion. Sometime during this
No.
meeting, my dog's opinion of something. Go ahead.
Director's report. So I kind of combined the April and the May just in case anybody wants to discuss anything. As of right now, our parks remain open. The playgrounds are closed. The splash pad is closed and the restrooms are closed. We canceled all of our pavilion rentals through April and May, basically. This is uncharted territory for everybody, obviously. So a lot of parks departments are working with each other, sharing ideas. One of the things that pretty much all of St. Charles County is doing right now for pavilion rentals is planning to start June 1st. So June 1st, our restrooms in the park are set to open, and we'll start pavilion rentals for those that want to have rentals. Now we have seen a lot of cancellations just because the playgrounds aren't open or the splash pad's not open. But for those that do want to rent, they have to sign a waiver, and then they have to show us their social distancing plan. And then once staff approves that, they're able to have their rental. All programming and events have been canceled through May. That was obviously the Easter egg hunt. The Memorial Day ceremony is going to be a little different this year. So this decision was made a while ago by the Veterans Committee, just because we weren't sure what the social distancing guidelines were going to be. And to plan everything, to get speakers in place, to do everything that goes into the ceremony just didn't make sense. So they are going to do a live stream from Veterans Park, and it will just be a quick, probably a 3-minute ceremony. It'll be a a prayer and kind of a thank you, kind of remember our veterans or soldiers. And then we do have a previous Memorial Day event on our website. So if anybody wants to watch a full event, they can do that. The triathlon has been canceled for the summer for August. We had very low numbers when this all broke out. We obviously didn't have any registrations and lost quite a few registrations. We heard from the company that does our lifeguards, because of everything going on, they did not renew their insurance. So we were getting pretty close to the point where we would have to start spending money to run this event, and made the decision, because we don't know what social distance guidelines are going to be in August, the lack of registrations and all the unknowns, just to make the decision now. Our day camp has been canceled. Pretty much the same reason. So the school district, their buildings were shut down, obviously. We've been working with St. Charles County to possibly move our day camp to Quail Ridge Park. It's just with the kids being there for 7 hours a day, 8 hours a day, in the groups with, teenage counselors, we just didn't feel comfortable running it. So the good news is all the cancellations that we've made so far, everybody's understood, everybody's thanked us for making the decisions earlier instead of dragging it out. The only one that we continued to drag out was our baseball league. Tournament happened last weekend in St. Charles. Everybody else is planning to start June 1st. So SPAA, OCAC, pretty much any league in St. Charles is planning to start June 1st. We've been talking with everybody else from New Horizons and think that June 1st is a good start date for us. So we've had a lot of communication with the parents. I think 3 or 4 emails have gone out. The last one was the social distancing guidelines that we are going to create for the league. Please understand that this is still a sport. There are going to be times where social distancing just isn't going to happen on the field. And if you're comfortable with that, here's a waiver that we need you to sign. And all the cities are doing that. I think we had 775 people signed up. We're down to about 500. So that's probably a good thing for the league. It was cut in about a third. So it will give us the flexibility of spacing out our games a little bit more, of using less fields, of just anybody using the park, they're going to be spread out more than they normally would. Staffing, everybody is still doing well as far as health-wise. We had to furlough 1 part-time employee. Don't know when she'll be back. We've had to cancel, and when we go through the budget, I'll kind of explain some of this, but we had to cancel quite a few of our contracts, which has allowed us to keep our other part-time staff on our maintenance crew. So now with baseball starting June 1st, some of our recreational staff, myself included, will be helping get ball fields ready or mow grass or maintain anything that we need to maintain. So definitely some changes that we're experiencing right now. As far as projects go, they did finish the playground flooring at the playground at Founders Park. Rock was installed around the pond at Hawk Ridge. We did finish the retaining wall at the entrance to the nature park. Went by the park last week. They're making pretty good progress on the creek crossings. They should be finished with that project next week. Met with the tree board a few minutes ago. Our arborist is set up basically 4 educational boards that we're going to install at the park. So the tree board is kind of helping draft some of that. Once those are finalized, we'll present it to you guys and get your thoughts on it. But basically it's 4 interactive educational pieces that we're going to put throughout No Name Park. The DRB approved the restroom plans, which I'll show you. So we are going to be able to start the final construction documents for that and get the restroom in the park up and running. And that's pretty much it for the staff report. We'll go through the budget. I think, you know, in the director's report that I sent you, it basically says the future's unknown right now as far as when the economy is going to turn around. So that's going to lead a lot of our efforts into this upcoming fiscal year. And we can talk about that when we do the next part of the presentation here. I don't have the agenda in front of me. Is that the next part, Scott? Do you know?
You're on mute. You're muted.
You'd think I'd be good at this by now. I just pulled it up. So I also think I skipped approving the minutes for the last meeting there. So let's go back and do that real quick. If I could get a motion on that, a motion to approve.
Motion to
I move to
approve.
approve the minutes.
All
I
right.
second.
All in favor? All right, perfect.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, so we're good there. Yeah, Darren, you had director's report update on programming, events, and operations. I think you're good there. And then we were talking budget with the general overview of the capital projects, and then we'll move on to No Name Park. So yeah, I think you covered it. Were there any before we move on though? Did anyone have any questions for Darren on his report?
I just had a question about the, I had a question, Darren, just about, you had said if you wanted to rent a pavilion, you had to submit a social distancing plan. Like, what do you expect to see in that? Other
Right.
than tables will be set up
Really, it's just
apart?
really what we're doing is we're making people think about the social distancing. We're not going to enforce anything, but what we're going to say is, you know, if you've got 150 people showing up, you're not going to be able to social distance. So it's basically making sure that people are restricting the number of people that they're going to invite, spreading out somehow. Really, we're leaving it up to them to show us how they're going to do it and how they're going to be safe with renting our pavilion. And then if we feel comfortable with the plans, we'll approve it. Now, that being said, we sent out those forms last week. So we haven't seen any come back yet. It seems to be working well for St. Charles County right now. That director said he was shocked at how detailed some of these plans got with people renting the facilities.
But they're not gonna follow
Darren, are
through
you-
to see if they're actually doing what they're saying they're doing. Just
No, what
wondering.
we're saying is anybody out there had a plan and we approved that plan.
Yep, okay. Very good.
Hey, Darren, are you doing additional cleaning and sanitizing of the restrooms and the pavilions between rentals?
We will not be doing any additional cleaning and sanitizing. So this was a discussion with all of the different park departments. What St. Charles City has done and what we're going to do is put a sign on the door that says, be aware of COVID-19. We clean and disinfect these daily. Use at your own risk. Ultimately the decision was it's a public park. You could disinfect 3 times a day, but the minute somebody comes in that has COVID-19 that's using it, the disinfectants just don't work.
Yep.
So as far as you understand, the Missouri Strong Plan and things like that, I know for certain public and retail, I know for restaurants, there's some requirements for hand sanitizer, additional stations and things like that. They're not asking parks to have hand sanitizer available at restroom entrances or anything like that, right?
No, they've been, and honestly, I wish there was more guidance given to parks. There really hasn't been much other than social distancing recommendations, and then playground closures. And I know, I mean, and that kind of shows you, I mean, if you look at all these different cities, almost every city is doing something a little different than the other. Darden hasn't canceled a thing. They've still been having baseball practices. They had a concert on Friday. O'Fallon just opened their rec center. They're doing their pass holders only. Wentzville opened up their facility to finish out their spring programming. So they've been having tennis and volleyball inside their building. Wentzville did cancel or close their pool for the summer. I believe that was more of a budgetary reason than COVID-19. Wentzville is operated under, it's an enterprise, so they're not tied to the city general fund. They're funded through sales tax of the city. So, people are making different decisions based on the situation they're in and what they feel comfortable with.
Okay. One operational question, Darren, and I haven't been over there in probably a week and a half, 2 weeks. Is the dirt on the baseball diamond at Boulevard? Is there a plan for that?
Yeah, there's a plan for it. And every time I talk to my staff, they've tried to move it, but it's too wet to move and to spread.
Yeah. Gotcha.
So, yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. We're good to move on to the budget.
Okay, I'm going to try to screen share this real quick. Okay, can you all see that?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so this is what was proposed at the Board of Aldermen meeting last night. Basically, no revenue or expenses projected for programming in 20 and 21 budget. Basically, what the process will be is we don't know. Besides baseball, the board approved us running baseball last night, but we don't know what we're going to be able to run and what we're not going to be able to run, and we don't know if there's going to be a second wave or a third wave, or we have more shutdowns. So to play it safe, we're budgeting nothing in revenues, and then as we're able to run programs, we'll make budget adjustments throughout the year. As long as the programs are revenue producing programs. Where we may have some issues are our special events. So our concerts, our movies, our Halloween and Easter events, all the events that we have that are not revenue producers, that are strictly expense, is going to be determined based on basically what the city's financial situation is at the time. So as of right now, all of our revenue lines are zeroed out. This shows you we have a almost 37% decrease in our expenses this year. Right now, the city manager has basically cut every department's budget to meet what his expectations are of revenues coming in this year. So there's a big decrease everywhere. Ours is a little bit bigger just because a big bulk of that is the expense to run programs, which will be put back in if we're able to make revenue on those programs. Luckily, personnel is okay right now. Like I said, we had to furlough one employee as of right now. That's the only employee that's going to be impacted. Contracted services took a big hit, and we'll go through that in a second. Our maintenance line has been cut. So basically our operating expense went from about 1.1 million to 740,000. And that is, that's with the city dipping into the general reserve fund of about $700,000. So this kind of breaks it down a little bit. Salaries full-time, really not impacted. The part-time, that's the furloughed employee. Our seasonal guys, we will not be hiring any seasonal employees this year if we're able to. So 5,000 in the budget is for next spring or summer that hopefully we can bring some people in at that point. No day camp salaries this year. Our overtime budget's been cut. We won't be doing any travel for conferences or education. The educational pieces that are in there are for local trainings that our maintenance staff goes to. Our landscape supplies took a significant hit. So this is, all of our flowers, all of our shrubs, all of our trees, all of our mulch, fertilizers, all that kind of stuff. We're basically going to be going bare bones this year. Ball field supplies, the money that's in there is basically fertilizer and weed control, just so things don't get too out of control on our fields. Tools and equipment, signs, and contracted services were cut. And the contracted services line, we'll go into a little bit more detail in one of these next slides. So our rent and lease equipment, we had budgeted 11,000. We have 3,000 that was given to us. The good news is a lot of that was for equipment needed to help finish off No Name Park. That money is going to Parks Capital. So we'll still have funds available through the Parks Capital to get that done. We budget $4,000 every year for just miscellaneous trail repairs throughout our parks. That's been cut. We won't be paying for fireworks this year. We won't, right now, we won't be putting holiday lights on the dam or up by the 70 side of Lake St. Louis Boulevard. All our programming, equipment and vehicles have been cut. They basically not gonna run irrigation this year. We're going to run it on the islands on the boulevard just because we have flowers there. But pretty much everything has been slashed. We did not get approved for any of our let me just go through this. Sorry, that's Public Works. Some things, ball field lights, we budgeted $3,400 a year for that, but at the time we weren't planning to run baseball, so that was cut. The $5,000 for the Nod Center, that's the partnership that we have with O'Fallon. That will not be renewed this year. We will not be turning on the splash pad. We won't be doing the laser leveling of the ball fields. The landscape contract, so when Margaret retired, our horticulturalist, when we hired her, we didn't have very many applications for that job. Luckily, we found Margaret. She did a great job for us. But we basically used those funds to hire a landscape company, and they would come in once a month and clean out all of our beds throughout the city. And then twice a year would come in and do trimmings for all of our landscaping beds throughout the city. That budget's been, or that contract will not be renewed. So, I mean, I could go on, but the point is that our budget's been cut significantly. So unless things turn around, or when things turn around, that budget will be, put back in. What was approved in capital is the playground at Boulevard Park. We're still a go with that. We have funding for more development at No Name Park. And then the trail repairs at Boulevard Park, that's basically the asphalt trails around the amphitheater. That whole side of the park will be replaced. Any questions about the budget? I know it's kind of doom and gloom. Okay, moving on. We went out, Chris and I went out to the park last week. We made a couple changes to the trails itself when we redesigned the number of crossings we were going to have. So Chris had an app on his phone, which showed exactly how we walked and where we walked. And that's what the new trail system looks like, minus a few logs that we had to jump over in some, kind of weird areas there. But Lindenwood University is still helping us. I've been in contact with the teacher. Actually, I talked to her today. And there's 2 students who are going to put this together in a nice map format for us that we'll use for the website, and that we'll create maps out at the trailhead and in the park to show the location of the map or the trails. This is about 2.5 miles total from trailhead and then back to trailhead. And then I know that the next thing on the agenda was to view the pictures of the park. That's actually on a different slide. So with everybody, I'll keep moving with this, and then we can go back and view the pictures of the park. This is the restroom that we're going to be putting in at the trailhead there at Windstone. Pretty simple building, 2 restrooms with a utility closet and a sink, and then drinking fountains on the outside of it. We wanted to complement the homes that are in the neighborhood. We didn't want to have anything that was an eyesore for people that lived in the neighborhood. So this is the color scheme that we're going with. We selected a house in the neighborhood and worked with the sales team at McBride to come up with the color combination and the manufacturer. So it'll be partial brick and partial vinyl. And this, like I said, this was approved by the DRB, so we're now able to move forward with the final construction plans and hopefully get that going soon. This shows you the layout of, so this is Hidden Bluffs Drive. Our park entrance is up here. And then this is the parking lot, and the restroom will sit in the back corner of that parking lot. This is the survey results for the park. So the 3 options: Hidden Bluff Park, Deer Ridge Park, and Exploration Ridge Park. Deer Ridge is the leader, 47 votes. I think I mentioned in the email that the survey monkey that we did gave us 100 votes before we had to pay for it. So wanted to share these results with you, see if we were good to move forward with Deer Ridge Park as the recommendation, or if you wanted to extend that survey out a little bit further. Anybody have any thoughts on that?
I think that's a reasonable sample. Why not just go with Deer Ridge?
Okay, I'm not hearing from anybody else, so.
I agree.
Okay,
I concur.
Scott, you
The
think we get an official
The
vote on
people
that?
have spoken.
Yeah,
Ridge
okay, sure. Let's take a vote. So let's see, should we do this in chat, or we just hold our, let's see if I can get everybody on here.
It already sounds like somebody's out there voting.
Well, let's just do it this way. Everyone in favor, I guess, just raise your hand into your screen and the vote that way.
In favor.
Okay. All right, we're good.
Okay, I will
The Ridge
make a
Park it
motion to
is.
Board of Aldermen.
Deer Ridge Park.
Okay, now in the, when we go through the pictures, I'll show you, but the glade area in the park is where we had decided that, pavilion would look nice. So wanted to share some thoughts with you, and I don't know where to land on this, to be honest with you. So what the original idea was that we would have kind of a bigger pavilion with 2 picnic tables underneath it. After seeing some other samples, including these, it made sense to me to maybe look at doing 2 smaller pavilions up there, just because I was thinking if you're walking on the trail and there's 1 person underneath that pavilion, even if there's 2 picnic tables, you may not be apt to sit next to that person. So to have 2 separate pavilions, just to space people out a little bit, give more options. 2 smaller pavilions would cost the same amount as the 1 pavilion with the 2 picnic tables underneath. So I guess that's the thought that I'm on right now is just going with something like this on the top left corner, which would be a pretty simple pavilion just to cover 1 picnic table and just have 2 of those up in the glade area. And then this shows what the 4 pillar would look like, but I think something as simple as this in the glade area would look pretty good.
Okay, are you
the
needing
ma-
to vote on that?
Well, I mean, if anybody has feelings one way or another, let me know. We have, so the manufacturer that I talked to said basically it's a 2-week turnaround, or I'm sorry, a 2-month turnaround from when we order. Our staff would be able to install these smaller pavilions, these basically 2 pole structures. So if we order now, we're probably looking at July that they would come in, which would give our staff, enough time to be able to install them before October.
Are you going with all natural color
That would be my recommendation, just because I think it would fit
instead of
into,
like the bright blue?
yeah, I think it would fit into the nature park better.
Yeah, that one on the top left looks really, it looks nice. It would blend right in and work well, I think. I like it.
And we could do the same thing. I mean, it would be pretty simple to pour a little concrete pad with the picnic table on it and, have the trail, just kind of butt out a little bit from the existing trail just to connect the pavilion, which will sit, which will sit just a little bit off the trail. But if you
I
guys
like
aren't
it.
comfortable.
I like the one in the upper left.
Okay.
Agreed.
Okay.
Does anyone have an opinion otherwise? I think we all agreed there, and that one looks good. My only thought on that one would be like, you're never going to stop this completely, but it looks like it'd be pretty easy for, a teenager to grab the side and jump on top.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll find a way to get up there.
Yeah, probably any way you slice it, but anyway. So, all right. Cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And then before we get to the actual pictures of the park, kind of wanted to let you know the timeline that we're looking at. So by June, I'd like to maybe get some ideas of what our park rules looks like, what we want to see, and that would include, do we want bicycles out there? Do we not want bicycles out there? Anything like that. So what I'm recommending is that I'll kind of go to some other nature parks like Quail Ridge and some of those other ones, take some pictures of the rule signs that they have, send them out, and then we can have that. Maybe you can have a couple weeks to think about it, and then we can finalize those rules in June. And then for signage, I'm thinking we'll have the map probably at the entrance to the park. We'll get some boundary markers that would just, kind of where we get closer to Heritage of Hawk Ridge or Crimson Oaks or some of the other neighborhoods, just have some markers out there to let people know that this is where city property ends. And then give some recommendations for maybe trail signage, this way takes you to this trail or this way takes you to this trail. One of the ideas that I had is if we, when I wrote this, I didn't know for sure, but if we're going with Deer Ridge Park, that we could, instead of using the trail names that the design team came up with, which was like Wetland Loop and Lower Forest Loop, to come up with names that went with Deer Ridge Park. So I gave the example Doe Run or Fawn Meadow or Deer Ridge. So we could name our trails that coincides with Deer Ridge Park.
I like that.
Yes.
And then we would have, I think there were 4 loops there, so we could come up with, 4 different trail names, each one having some sort of deer reference. And then let's see, the creek crossing area. So they did some tree clearing there, obviously, to get the culvert in. I'm not quite sure. I can't envision what it's going to look like when it's finished. So there may be something that we need to put there just to fill that space, and whether that's landscaping, whether that's a little kiosk information area, whether it's just a bench, I don't know. But the idea is that by next month, I'll be able to take some pictures of that site and show them to you, and maybe we can come up with what can go in that area. And then we'll need to do some landscaping in the parking lot. We've heard from a few people in the Windstone subdivision with concerns about the restroom facility being located there. So the one person I talked to asked if we would consider doing some screening on the site. So that's something that we'll look at. And then at the entrance itself to the trails where we put the retaining wall, it's a display home right now, but it's a home right next to it. May be a good idea to kind of start thinking about some screening that we can put there, because at some point somebody will be living there. So, we can kind of start addressing those issues now. So that's kind of some stuff that's up in the air right now, but I plan to have a plan to you by next month, or at least some talking points that we can discuss.
When you say you're talking about like what do you mean by that?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Like you said screens. Do you mean like hedges? What do you mean by screen?
Yeah, I mean like landscaping screening. So whether it's trees or bushes or a combination of both, just to, for the restrooms, it would be more just for people driving down the road that they see some nice trees, or the people living right next door to the restrooms. And then same for the trailhead. Sorry, bear with me for just a second. I'm trying to figure out how to get this other document open.
Hopefully none of those homeowners with concern were surprised by the parking lot and the restroom and the project, because that's been on the plan for a long time.
I agree with you, Scott. Unfortunately, they were surprised by it.
Yeah. It's probably has to do with that realtor sitting in the McBride and Sons display home.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate how it played out. But what we did once it was brought to our attention is we put up signage there now. So anybody that drives past it says this is the future site of the nature park restroom. And we've done what we can. For the most part, the people that I've talked to have been reasonable, and they like the fact that there's a park right next door to them, and they're certainly going to use it. It was really one person that was pretty vocal. Is that photo album showing up for you guys right now?
Nope.
Okay.
I had it up earlier, the nature park pictures.
Yeah, how's that?
There you go.
Got it now.
Now you got it. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, well, so like I said, the idea was to get you guys out there and to walk the park. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. So I went out there and took probably about 100 pictures, showed them to my wife, and she said it was looking like vacation pictures that somebody else was sharing. So she recommended that I take quite a few of the pictures out. So we'll go through, I'll try to go through them kind of quickly, but just to give you an idea. This is the retaining wall that I was talking about that was installed. This is the start of the trail. And then you can see how close that home is next to it. But this leveled out the area for us. It was a pretty steep hill on a side slope. So this gets us into
Is
the,
everybody else being able to see the pictures?
No,
No,
I'm just.
Okay.
seeing the
I was
title.
like, ah.
I don't think your
We just
screen-
have the first slide that says photo album by Darren Nolkin. We don't have,
okay,
we
give me just a
aren't seeing
second.
the other pictures. I
will
thought I was
say,
going crazy.
if y'all have the email that came out, it was an
Yeah.
attachment.
Yeah, I mean, I can look from my phone, but
Darren sent what was it, yesterday? Looks like. Nature park pictures.
oh, that's not showing up.
Oh, my meeting controls are gone. Let's see.
Wonder why this is.
Well, you're gonna have to trust me. It's awesome out there.
I looked at the pictures earlier. They do look great. It was a nice day that you took the pictures too.
Yeah, it was nice out there. Shoot.
There we
There
go.
you go.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
All right, so everybody can see that now?
Yes.
All right. So this is the retaining wall, the entrance to the trails. And then this is, I'm just gonna, we're just gonna follow this trail. As you lead into the woods, these are the paths that were cut in January. So they're still in pretty decent shape. This has not been finished grading at all. There's still stump grinding we have to do. There's still a lot of work that we have to do, but the trails themselves are still there. This is continuing along that trail on the west side of the creek. And then that's how close we are to the creek. So you've got some nice views there. This is what it looks like right now for the creek crossings that are being installed. This is basically the trailhead area, the
Okay.
crux of the park. This is, if you continue on the main spine towards the wetland loop, if everybody remembers that, this is the trail leading to the wetland area. I don't know if you can see from the picture, but from the trail, you get a nice view of the area there. There's a little bump out area here that we're planning to put a bench so you can sit and kind of have a nice viewing area. This continues down that path. And then you get to a point where the wetland area ends, but we got some additional land. So it's a pretty cool area. It goes through the woods there. Those paths were cut. We just need to get a mower back there and knock that down. But it basically goes back through those woods and then loops back around. And then this is the view you get when you come out of that trail, is you're looking directly at the wetland area. And then this is going to be to the west even further of the wetland area, making our way back towards the culvert, the trailhead. So we basically make one big, yes?
Does that wetland area, does it stay full during the summer, or does it evaporate and drain?
It drains. There are times where there's very little water out there, and there's times where there's no water out there.
Okay. Looks nice when it's full, though.
It looks really cool, doesn't it?
It does.
And then when we were walking, there were 2 deer that jumped out, and you could hear them splashing through the water. So I tried to get a picture of them. It didn't turn out that great, but they're in the distance there. And then basically it loops back around to the creek crossing. Then you would cross the creek and you start making your way up this hill. This is where we would have one of the educational pieces, which talks about the difference in tree species is pretty phenomenal from the creek area all the way up the hill. So we wanted to highlight the different species that people are going to see in the different ecosystem just in that small area. And when you get to the top of the hill, this is your path that's going to lead out to the glade area. So there's a nice stand of white oaks there. And then this is the glade area now. I don't know if you remember what it looked like before, but it was full of what's called sericea. It's some pretty nasty stuff, and it will grow back. But we got it all mowed down. There was a ton of cedar trees up there. We took all those cedar trees out. So now it's just a big open field. And what I'm picturing is, those 2 pavilions sitting up in this field with some educational pieces about the glade restoration project that we're working on. And then so the trail will loop kind of around and through this glade area. And then I'll go back here. So basically you'll circle the glade area and come back, and then you're walking back like you are making your way back to the Windstone subdivision. So you're going back south through the glade area then, and you get to the wood line again, and this is the entrance into that section. And then you can kind of see where the trail's been kind of growing up a little bit, but there'll be a nice trail through the trees, and it makes its way down the hill. And then these are just some views that you get while you're inside here. And at this point, we're making our way back east towards towards what's the second creek crossing, which is going to be a little bit smaller. But as you can see, the glade area would have been up the hill on our right. We went down that hill, and now we're making our way in on the bottoms. So this is, so the other creek crossing is basically just a pipe that goes in the ditch with some dirt on top of it. So it's just going to look like a normal trail connection. It won't be a concrete culvert or a bridge. It'll look like an extended trail. And then you make your way across there and then start, I can't remember what it was called, but it was a smaller loop on the original plans. But you're still walking through the woods, and now you're looking, this is basically, I don't know if you can see my mouse, but this is where we came from. We started up here and worked our way down, and then we crossed, and now we're back up on the other side. And we're making our way through the trees. This is, just a view of where we came from. And then we come out of the woods, and there's power lines right here, and that's kind of the end of our property line, and where Windstone property line begins. So these are the power lines, but we'll walk through some open area for a while before we cut back through the trees. And then we come back out to the open area, and now we're on, there's basically a big bowl on the right side of the screen here. And I think I took, this is a picture of what you'll see when you're on top of that ridge looking down in that bowl. And then our creek is along the wood line over here. So as we keep making our way, we're making our way back to the creek. So as we start heading back towards the ditch crossing, our creek will be on the left side. And then get back to the woods where the creek crossing was, and then there's another little trail that heads out. And now we're back up to the hill where you cross at the culvert, and this is going to be our trail back home. And then this is what it looks like coming back out. You can see the houses in Windstone where we're making our way back out. And then when you get to the top of the park, this is what you come out looking at. And then basically at the end of the road is where our trailhead and parking lot will be. Just past that stop sign. You can see the little blue sign there at the end. That's where the parking lot and trailhead is. And that's the walkthrough of the park.
Cool.
So
It's
hopefully,
exciting.
yeah, no, it's awesome.
Fun. I love it.
Good deal. So like I said, we've got a lot of work to do. We've got a plan in place. June will be a busy month for us out there. We hope to get, as soon as that culvert's installed, we'll be able to get to the other side and get some of these benches installed, and we'll get the pavilions ordered and start getting that installed. So what we're envisioning is June's going to be a really big month for us. And then I can't name everything that we're doing, but it'll be trail cutting, it'll be bench install, it'll be all this stuff. And then take a little break. And then August is when we're expecting the pavilions to come in and we can actually start getting those installed. So right now we're still on track to open in October.
Awesome.
Looks good.
Great. Thank you for that. That was good.
Awesome. Hope it wasn't too boring. I know there was a lot of pictures, and like I said, it was probably 3 times that amount before my wife said, "Hey, you better stop."
I am glad you listened to her. So
Yeah, I always do.
I
good man.
felt like I was there. It was good. It was good. But those trails will be well defined and marked when they're all done, and so it'll be pretty easy to figure out where to head next. So that'll be good. Cool. So I guess we're on to board discussion. I have one question. So Darren, you had mentioned is Chris still thinking about trying to have a baseball league? That's still up in the air, right? Is that
We're planning to start baseball June 1st. We are trying to have
June 1st?
a league.
Okay.
It was
Okay.
approved.
So that is potentially some revenue that is not being accounted for. Not much, but yeah.
That's correct.
Okay.
Right now we're at, refunds kind of trickle in every once in a while. There was a big hit, and then an email would be sent out saying this is what we're going to do. Obviously we've issued anybody a refund that wants a refund. We will issue anybody that wants a refund. We were at about 750, 770 kids. We're at a little bit over 500 now. So still a pretty big league.
Yeah, that's good.
So will they still have like concession stand and everything set up?
I haven't talked to the concession stand operator. I don't know. My recommendation is that he not open. And I don't know if he will, just for the fact that all of the numbers are down around the league. So for him to operate, he may be working at a loss, which I don't know if he'll want to do. Plus with the social distancing and, trying to spread everybody out under the concession stand and, all the rules you have to follow for that. I don't, unless something changes social distance wise, I don't think I can recommend that.
Gotcha.
Are you all leaning toward the I guess I've seen basically a set of rules that seems to be pretty consistent across the baseball world right now, and that's lining them up on the outfield fence and only so many kids in the dugout and so on and so forth. Is that the plan, or is it going to be a hybrid of that?
It'll be a little bit of a hybrid, and this is a fluid situation. So as more information comes out, obviously those rules may become a little bit less strict. We're asking everybody to social distance whenever possible. We've changed some things where, obviously no team waters, no sunflower seeds. We're trying to do some stuff in-house where we schedule kind of a stagger start, so you don't have every game they're starting at 6 o'clock where everybody's walking in at the same time. It's going to be staggered that way. We're trying to, because our league is a third of the size that it normally is, we're trying to space out where you don't have, whenever it's possible, you don't have 2 games on fields that are right next to each other, just trying to do what we can to spread out. They haven't created the schedules yet, so I don't know what kind of issues that's going to pose for them, but they're scheduling with that in mind.
Was there any thought of supplementing with some field rentals for practices and things like that, or is it the plan to just steer away from that?
We are going to rent fields for practices and tournaments. Once we get the schedule completed, we'll know kind of what availability we have and what makes sense. But the idea is that it will be similar to our pavilion rentals, where we're going to send them a waiver form, and then they have to come up with their plan on how they're going to social distance when they're here.
That's good. It'd be a little bit of revenue, potentially. So. All right. Does anyone have anything else? All right.
Is there anything you need from us?
Not that I can think of at this point. I'm going to go to the board with recommendations for naming the park Deer Ridge. I think I got good guidance on the pavilions, so I'll get those ordered. And then the other issues were more stuff that I'll have for your consideration in June. I think everybody saw the note about the Meadows Park and how that is basically come to a halt for now. I think everybody understands the financial situation everybody's in. The discussions I wasn't involved with the discussions with the Meadows, but Paul said they went well, they understood, and everybody's looking to, maybe bring these conversations up again in 2 years, 3 years, however long this takes and whatever makes sense for us. But as of right now, the Meadows project is on hold.
Well, I appreciate that the ladies are all clean shaven because obviously the men don't know how to do that. Scott, you look amazing, dear. You look awesome.
Yeah.
My
Just so
wife
you know,
likes the beard.
the
I
ladies
usually
aren't
shave it in
shaving
the
their legs.
summer.
Not gonna be shaving our legs until you shave your faces, guys.
Considering the last time I shaved my face, I was 17. I don't think.
Last time I shaved my legs too.
Okay. That's funny.
That's not on the agenda, Scott.
No.
Get control.
You go ahead and make that motion to adjourn, Shane, and we'll be
I
good.
move to adjourn.
Second, agreed.
Second, somebody second?
Doesn't require one.
I think Wendy second.
Yeah. All right. All in favor.
Aye.
Yay.
Have a
Thank you, everybody.
great
Thanks,
night.
guys.
Thank you, everyone.